One of my friends describes railways as a public transport system using guided missiles. And I think this highlights for us that there's a potential safety issue with railways. They need to be managed safely, whilst there are also implications for capacity and cost. What we're going to do in this session is to explain the key principles behind safety and start from the very beginning, so we can see that how these have been built up in the 200 years or so since railways first started. There are perhaps two main things that you need to consider in a global sense when thinking about railway safety. The first concept is that of being fail-safe. We need to make sure that equipment is safe when it doesn't work, which will happen only rarely, but rarely is still once too often. So that's fail-safe. And the second concept is about multiple protection. Safety on a railway system is enhanced when we have multiple systems. For example, we're quite keen in the railways that passengers don't fall on the track. But we can put in a number of measures to reduce this from happening. For example, we could have station platform assistance to help boarding and alighting. We could have platform screen doors in a metro environment. And even when passengers do get stuck in a door, we can have some safety system for that. So, multiple systems are the way in really ensuring that railways do remain one of the safest methods of transport. So let's go back to the beginning. The very earliest railways operated on a time interval system, where trains were sent out perhaps at every 10 minutes intervals. Of course, we can see immediately that this fails our first concept. It's not fail-safe. If anything happens to the first train, we don't necessarily know about it, and we can have a collision if a subsequent train comes along. So at a very early stage in the railways, we're talking the order of 1840, it was realised that we need signalling and control systems on the railway. And we're now going to look at the elements that are critical to those. The first key element is called the block. The block is a section of track in which we are only going to allow one train. It seems obvious enough, but this is an essential part of a railway safety system. One train in one piece of track. Except it's not quite that simple, because there are occasions when we need to have multiple trains in the same section of track. For example, if we want to join two trains together, or if a train breaks down and needs to be rescued. And in some ways that immediately shows us we've removed, in those circumstances, one of our layers of protection. So even with that very simple example of the block, we can see we've got a fail-safe concept, which in some circumstances needs to be modified for operational reasons, and we've taken away one of our levels of safety. Another key element of railway safety is in interlocking. Interlocking is an essential part of signalling system, which checks to see if a part of a railway has a train in it before allowing another part, a train, to go there. Clearly, if a section is already occupied or a block is occupied, interlocking prevents another train being sent there. And that's a key element, and it's required to overcome potential distraction, for example, by member of signalling staff. So first of all we had blocks, and now we're going to add interlocking to that to ensure that we really only have one train at one piece of track at once. The third bullet here is about brakes. It may seem unimaginable to anyone living in the 21st century that we ever had vehicles without proper brakes. Railways, of course, have trains with multiple vehicles, and it was certainly common in early days for only locomotives to have brakes. On modern railways we expect every carriage and wagon, as well as locomotives, to have brakes. But that's not in itself sufficient. We need to understand that the faster you go, the greater you need to be your braking capability. Trains travelling at 200 kilometres an hour might reasonably take 2 kilometres to stop comfortably. We might stop them slightly shorter distance in emergencies, but this starts telling us something about spacing trains apart. So braking is a key part of a train as its ability to accelerate.